Tell me, one thing that does seem to be under attack a lot more these days is the right to freedom of conscience. It seems that there is certainly at best you'd say a narrowing or an attempt to narrow that, and very, very narrowly. In a lot of cases now a complete removal of the right to freedom of conscience. Why do you think that is going on?
Well, it's because there is a competing religion. And that religion might be called expressive individualism. It might be, which was the term favored by the famous sociologist Robert Bellah, the late Robert Bellah. It might be called secular progressivism. There are various labels for it, but it functions like a religion. It's a source of meaning. It's got a set of dogmas. Indeed, it's got a lot of the other indicia of religions, saints and demons and holy days and sacraments and so forth. And it's a militant religion. Not all religions are militant, at least in the normal sense of that term. It's a fundamentalist religion. Not all religions are fundamentalists, or not all traditions of all religions are fundamentalists. Most religions have their fundamentalist traditions within them. But usually not the mainstream. Well, this religion is so dominant among Western elites, is militant, and for many people it's a fundamentalist faith. And for militants and fundamentalists, whether they're Christian or Muslim or Jewish or secular progressive or utilitarian or Marxist, whatever their ideology or quasi-religion is, when they're militant and fundamentalist, they brook no dissent. They cannot allow for people's conscience or freedom of speech or any other basic civil liberties. They want conformity. They want groupthink. They want people to denounce anybody who steps out of line. They want to lower the hammer on anybody who challenges the sacred orthodoxies, the sacred teachings. They want to make you not only be silent about what you do believe, they want to force you to say things you don't believe. This is where this ideology, this pseudo-religion, veers from merely being authoritarian, which is bad enough, in the direction now of being totalitarian. Ordinary authoritarians are content to stop people from saying what they believe to be true. Totalitarians can't stop there. They've got to force people to say things they believe to be false.
It seems to me that perhaps this is aided a little bit too by the state of perhaps what goes on in the public square, where it feels to me a little bit like, in the minds of a lot of ordinary everyday folk, that freedom of religion, freedom of conscience, it seems to be falling victim to an ideology that wants to narrow it down to being just about freedom of worship. So you go somewhere on a Sunday morning, keep it to yourself, or freedom of thought. You can think these ideas in your head, but you can't act on them. So if you're a doctor who says, well, my religious beliefs, my conscience beliefs say I cannot participate in the act of abortion or even refer for that, all of a sudden people are now screaming at you, well, you shouldn't be a doctor. You shouldn't be allowed to be licensed for that. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
Oh, it's a completely fair assessment. Here's the thing about this particular militant fundamentalist pseudo-religion, this ideology. One of its dogmas is not only that it should have hegemony in the public square, but that competing comprehensive views, if I can borrow a phrase from the late great political philosopher at Harvard, John Rawls, competing comprehensive views, be they secular or religious, certainly religious ones like Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, that competing comprehensive views must be restricted to the private precincts of the home or house of worship. So freedom of religion on this account is restricted to saying your prayers with the family around the dinner table, or on your knees at bedtime, or in the mosque, or in the synagogue, or in the church. But it's not allowed to enter the public square and compete with the hegemonic governing ideology of secular progressivism or expressive individualism, or whatever you want to call it. Now, why should anybody of any competing faith, again, secular or religious, accept those terms? There's absolutely no reason to accept those terms. And certainly religious folk in the tradition traditional sense, Muslims and Christians and Jews should say, no, we're not buying that set of rules. Who made those rules? I mean, who made you dictator of the world that you get to make the rule? You think you're God? Those aren't the rules. We compete fairly in the public square with you. You have every right to be there. We don't have any authority to shut you down because your teachings are contrary to our religion, but you have no authority to shut us down. Fair fight in the public square for the allegiance of our citizens. You make your arguments, we'll make our arguments, and then we're going to use the processes of deliberative democracy to resolve the questions until they get opened back up in the ordinary institutions of democratic governance for reconsideration, if indeed they do. This idea that secular progressive ideology counts as neutrality is deeply foolish.